Hey guys, Brian Schroeder here with Buyers Club. I'm with Matt Becker with Magnolia Real Estate.
Yeah.
And Matt is the broker owner of the company. In my opinion, the best real estate broker that I've ever met in St. Louis metro area, a whole frickin' country. But Matt, Buyers Club is a bunch of real estate investors. And I think some agents don't really understand investors, but speak to, and I know you guys do, and we were talking a little bit, Magnolia's got roughly 100 agents, give or take.
Yep.
And I think you told me that roughly half of them are either investors themselves in some form or fashion.
You know, we're super lucky to being realtors that we understand what real estate does and how much freedom it can give you.
Yeah.
And it's, there's a lot of agents out there that for them, it's just selling the houses. It's the buyers and the sellers.
Yeah.
But when an agent realizes that there's way more that they can do with that license, that they can go out and they can not only help people buy and sell homes, but then they can also have their own rental properties. They can do their own flips. They can buy commercial property.
Yes.
So there's all kinds of different revenue streams out there. And when realtors figure that out, that's when they really become successful.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So talk to the real estate investor in the group here about what a Magnolia real estate agent can do for them.
So I think one of the biggest things is we can be a partner.
Yeah.
So we don't want to just show up when you finish your project. We want to start with you at the beginning.
Yeah.
If you're trying to decide if you should do an accent wall or if you should put down BRRRR carpet or put something ugly in the kitchen, we want to tell you yes or no up front.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things we see a lot of times is, especially in the city, when investors get a house in the city and they have the opportunity to really bring out the character and charm in that house, and they strip it and they make it all gray and white. We've lost everything. Someone buying a house in St. Louis Hills doesn't want a gray and white house that looks like it's from 2025. They want a house that looks like it was built in 1900.
Yeah.
And so that's what the realtor can do. They can come in, they can give you that advice, kind of guide you on what's hot, what's not, what people are buying and what they're not buying. And hopefully, when that project is done, it's a super easy, quick, profitable sale.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think that's so important what you said there is the average real estate investor doesn't really know the typical buyer. And you guys, because you're representing buyers all the time and you're walking with buyers, you understand what they like and what they don't like.
Sure. Well, and the bottom dollar is very expensive or very important to the investor.
Yeah.
So, okay, I can buy a countertop for this much and I can put this flooring in. Yeah, you can, but if you spend just a little bit more, I can double that, investment. And so that's sometimes, and those are hard conversations. But a good realtor is willing to have that with their client.
Absolutely. So in our group, we got fix and flippers and we got landlords. So I think that's primarily the members of our group. So with the fix and flipper, obviously. Magnolia can help list the property and, like you said, be your partner, walk them through from. When would you recommend if a fix and flipper bought a house and they were going to fix it up and sell it and use you guys as an agent? When do you recommend bringing them into the team?
Starting the conversation sooner the better.
Yeah.
So I don't need to know everything you're going to do, but give me an idea of what the project's going to look like. And then as you're working through that project, have the conversations with the agent and say, hey, we've decided, we hit a roadblock here. Do we knock this wall down? Do we leave it up? Bring that agent into that conversation. And also, it's going to make the process that much easier when you go to list the house. Because the agent is familiar with it. They know what's going on in the house, and they can speak more eloquently on that project.
Yeah.
So.
Well said. The fix and flipper also, and the landlord, are buying properties. How can a Magnolia agent help them to buy a property? Are there deals out there in the MLS, or do you guys ever do off-market deals? Can you talk about that a little bit?
So many deals in the MLS.
Yeah.
And you have to, we just got done listening to an amazing speaker in there at Buyers Club.
Yeah.
And one thing she said was she knows her numbers backwards and forwards.
Yeah.
You got to know your numbers.
Yeah.
So if you know your numbers, you know that when you find a deal in the MLS.
Yep.
And so, realtors can really help you in that aspect of it. And everybody's different. Every investor's different. When I started in the industry, one of the first clients that I had was a father-son team. I knew what they were looking for, and I'd go out and find it for them. It was a little easier back then because everything was bank owned or short sale, so you could find a deal. But now, I've got another family that they wanted to get into the investing game a little bit later in life. They had some extra money laying around. They didn't want to flip a house. They didn't want to do a turn on it before they put a tenant in it. So we went out to the MLS. We found a turnkey property that the numbers made sense.
Yep.
And that's hard to do right now. But we found a turnkey property, numbers made sense. And so we closed December 31st. They had us relist it to find a tenant for them. We had it listed for their asking rent price within 7 days.
Nice.
So all kinds of different things the realtors can do.
Do you find, one of the things I think investors don't think about is putting their rentals in the MLS. Did you find that effective?
I find it very effective. Okay. And, at the end of the day, it doesn't cost a fortune to do it.
Right.
And, it opens it up to a much wider, broader group of people.
Yeah.
And, the other thing is, too, is sometimes we see that we get a better quality tenant and application that comes through if it's somebody that's working with a realtor to find a rental property.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people out there that don't realize that realtors do that. And so, we had, I think, on that one that we had in O'Fallon, it was, $2,300 a month, 3-bedroom, 2-bath. And we had, I believe, 8 applications in 7 days with a winner on that 7th day. So it was very quick and painless.
Wow, that's awesome. Very good. Let's talk just a minute about, you got 100-ish agents on your team. Mm-hmm. Do you recommend for the fix and flipper that's going to maybe do 5 or 6 flips this year, that they find an agent that they work with long term, or do you recommend an investor find an agent that knows like an area? So if they're going to do 5 flips this year, and they might be in different parts of the metro area, do you recommend working with an agent that's kind of part of your team, or finding an agent for each deal that's more specific to a neighborhood?
Well, I think it's like anything. You need to find somebody that you work well with. So that's number one.
Okay.
But you're absolutely right. There are some agents that have never left St. Charles County and have no business selling a house down the city.
Right.
There are some agents, Magnolia sells all the way up to Mark Twain Lake. We sell Lake of the Ozarks. We sell in Columbia. And we sell all over the metro area.
Yep.
There are agents that shouldn't sell a house in Columbia because they don't know. There's agents that shouldn't sell at Lake of the Ozarks. They don't know that market.
Yeah.
So what I always tell people is go find yourself an agent that you know, you like, you trust, especially if you work in a certain area all the time. Find one that knows that area. However, that agent also knows people that know other areas.
Yep.
And so if it's a good agent, if they know that they're not familiar with that location, they're going to tell you. And they're going to say, hey, you bought, I've listed all your stuff in St. Charles County, but now you've got a house down on the hill. I don't know that market.
Yeah.
So I'm going to bring in this agent from my office to help us out with it or be a part of this deal. So that way you do get top quality service.
And one of the things that I think is special about Magnolia is that you've created a team atmosphere where everybody works together. I feel like there's some offices that historically, or maybe even today in town, where all the agents are kind of their own little show and they don't communicate. But I feel like that's the special thing about Magnolia.
Yeah, we even with over 100 agents now, we're still one big family.
Yeah.
And so, we had somebody in the office the other day that needed to sell a house in the city, and he said, I would really prefer somebody that knows the city.
Yep.
And we have a phenomenal agent, Rachel Murphy, who her and her husband live down in St. Louis Hills. And, I introduced them. We made that connection. And he's now got a great full-time agent that can represent him on his city deals.
Yeah, absolutely. Couple last questions to wrap this up, Matt. What's a trend you're seeing in the industry right now? Anything come to mind?
Man, I tell you what, it's all over the board. So one of the biggest trends is there has to be character in the house.
Okay.
I think money's expensive. Where it's 6.5% to 7.5% interest rates.
Yep.
Buyers, they don't want to waive everything anymore. They're doing their inspections. They may still say they're going to buy it as is, but they're going to do their inspection. They're probably going to ask for something.
Right.
But their money's expensive, and we still have a lack of inventory.
Yeah.
So they know they're paying a little bit more for their money. They're paying a little bit more for the house. Prices continue to increase. they want something with a little character. They don't want just a cookie cutter gray and white, house.
So when you say character, are you thinking kitchen, countertop, an accent wall? What are you seeing that provides character?
Kind of a little of all of it.
Okay.
Doesn't have to be expensive either. Like, the accent walls are huge.
Okay.
Putting some character on the backsplash. Spending a little extra on the shower. Making that bathroom pop a little bit more. Just some of that stuff. It goes a long way. And also, especially for the investors that don't stage their homes, I think you're missing the bus on that if you're not staging the home.
Yeah.
But if you're not going to stage it, you got to have something that makes it stand out.
Yep.
And and lean into that. If there's a fireplace in that house, spend a little money on that fireplace to make that fireplace something special. So I think that's one of the biggest things. And when we see that character, that house is under contract in minutes.
Okay,
So.
good tip. I always like to wrap these up with a crazy story. So do you have any fun or entertaining or crazy, silly stories with working with a real estate investor?
Oh my gosh, I don't even know where to start. I think I got to go way back though, before my Brian Schroeder days, and when I got started, I got licensed in 2012.
Okay.
So everything was a short sale foreclosure. Yep. If you found a privately owned house, it was like, holy cow, what is this? And so it was every day I'm walking properties that are condemned, foreclosed.
Yep. I remember those days.
You remember those. And I had one of my best friends had gotten licensed and come to work for me on my team. And I had called her up and I said, hey, let's go walk this house. We had a client. So we get into this house, and it was evident that this house had not been lived in some time.
Yeah.
So we've been friends for years. We get down into the basement, and there's one light in the basement. It's big fluorescent, covered 1980s light down there.
Yeah.
We flip on the light switch, and she says, absolutely not. I am not going down there with you. Have fun. So she's standing on the stairs, and I just hear her scream and take off running. And I have no idea what's going on. And I look up, and in the fluorescent light case is about a 12.5-foot snake that's just curling around right above my. It's huge. I could have exaggerated a little bit, Brian, but
That's
was
a
huge.
big-ass snake.
I was terrified, and I hate snakes. And so the things I have found in houses, just like you, they're impressive. But that was a massive snake, and I've got a picture of it somewhere. But that was. I'm not a snake person.
I have a similar one. One time I was looking at a house and I saw some termite damage, and I was up there when I see termite damage, I like to just kind of beat on the wood a little bit, and I put my hand up there and I came off with a big-ass spider. I mean, as big as my hand. So I can kind of relate to that one.
Yeah, there's been a lot. I mean, we have seen it, and so have you, and that's the best thing about this job.
It's a fun business, isn't it?
It is. I don't ever want to snake that big over my head again, but it was,
Awesome. Thanks for going in. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it.